The subject of my work is the price of increasing speed. I've only 10 minutes to tell my story, so I have hurry. And that is exactly the subject that I want to tell. So, fasten your seatbelts and here we go. I think of my work as a mixture of textile art and contemporary art paintings. One part of my artwork is made through embroidery and the other part is painted in acrylics. I like to tell you something about the subject in order to understand more about my artwork. Also, I will tell you about my work process. And of course, I show you some of my artworks. Now, let's take a look at my subject, the price of increasing speed. Every day, it seems that I'm running out of time. Although I work faster and faster. If I ask people around me if they recognize that feeling, they would always agree. Also, a Dutch philosopher, Joke Hermsen, writer of the book Stil de Tijd, that means something like quiet time, says, we are currently living in a staccato culture, which means we want more and more and more. We always want something different and always at a faster pace. Also, nowadays, time seems to go faster, and it seems we have less time every day. Time has become a product of shortage. But when did this staccato culture start? The Industrial Revolution, 1900, forced us to organize our lives in favor of the production process. Time is to be used for production. Time has become money. Also, we internationally agreed that the whole world would be using the same standard clock time. In 1884, the Greenwich Mean Time, start of globalization. So, the philosopher Joke Hermsen advises, don't let the clock time lead your life. Give the inner time space for reflection, creativity, and humanity. Social media allows us to respond in seconds to news and send this into the world. I remember that about 10 years ago, I wrote letters that took 2 or 3 days before I sent them off. Nowadays, I'm expected to answer emails in 1 hour. Art historian and philosopher Rutger Willemsen says about this, we live fast because we are too afraid that we will miss life. And his advice is, experience your life. Concentrate at this moment. Here I am. Also, classical philosophy says about this subject, resting and doing nothing belongs to the foundations of a civilization. Rest to the brains gives reflection and space for thinking and creativity. Brains need recovery time. And I believe that speed will only increase in the future. Can our brains handle this? I wonder if this is a good development. Now about my work process. As an artist, I'm looking for images where speed is visible. For example, I shoot photos in a moving car on the highway. The result of the photos will be different depending on the speed of the car. Driving 30 kilometers per hour, you will get another photo than when driving 75. The faster the car drives, the more abstract the photo will be. You can sometimes hardly recognize the world on the photo. At this dia, you see the drawing already on linen, just before I start painting with acrylic. I build the images in lines, not in brushwork. These lines represent the pixels or grid of a computer screen. My painting process starts with making different samples, which acrylic lines, structures and little line patterns in different colors. Important is also the direction of the lines. Which direction tells the story the best way? Do I go with the warp or weft or ignore them? After painting, I start on hand embroidery. I use the flat satin stitch DMC Moliné yarn on Belgian linen. For me, the satin stitch is the closest thing to drawing, and it gives surfaces bright and strong colors. You see two details of my work, you see later on in the whole size. What interests me is the embroidery and acrylic paint together. My layer of linen has a dominating gray-brown color. And after painting my lines, this dramatic ethos of the linen is still there. The embroidery gives the surface crisp colors, so the color palette will be more in balance, without losing the drama which is needed for my theme. Sometimes I mix the acrylic paint as close as possible to the color of the yarn. This way I can use paint and yarn together. This gives a lively and soft texture to the skin of the painting. I like the contrast of these different materials. It seems to contradict with the subject that I choose for time-consuming techniques. The way I paint takes a long time, and the hand embroidery is even worse. Perhaps, unconsciously, I want to low speed. A silent protest to these fast times. Now the results of my subject and my technique. This work is called Carnival. You see a different world than we know. A world transformed by speed. This is because the car was at very high speed when I took the photo. What I think to see in this photo, I try to exaggerate even more in the artwork. This is needed for my story, because it's not important if this is the correct visualization of the reality. This is my metaphor for the risk of increasing speed. This way I want to represent the risk of living in our fast times. This is a detail of a work ghost tunnel. Because of the transformation, owing to the rapidity of the driving car, strange objects appear and strange figures. If you look closely, you can see even a baby. Yeah, you discover it? Oh, okay. In this work, The Magical Kiss, the landscape is also more abstract because the speed of the car was high when I took the photo. In the work Fast World, the speed of the car was about 80 kilometers per hour, a large contrast with my working process. I've spent 7 months, 840 hours working on this canvas. The size is 80 by 140 centimeters. This work is called Fast Landscape Sun City. I'm always looking for a landscape that I don't know. A landscape which carries a future vision. Definitely a landscape which makes me curious. It does not need to have positive feeling. It may be threatening, bizarre, alienating, or futuristic. I will finish with my textile painting, which is my slowest, fast landscape. I took a picture on the moving sidewalk at the airport. You see on the picture below. That's about 5 kilometers per hour. Here, where speed is low, you have more contact with the world around you. Or in my opinion, a world with lower speed is a better place for mankind. So, my advice, concentrate on the moment. Here you are, here I am. Concéntrese no momento, aquí estoy. Concentrar ce momento, aquí estoy. Thank you.
Very happy to residents, Sandra.